Hello everyone, it's 4 o'clock. It is time to begin. Very welcome to this webinar. We're very happy to bring it to you from Time People Group, which I am representing. My name is Leo Edin. And today I'm very happy to introduce our speaker for the day, Dr Binish Tanveer from Blekinge Tekniska Högskola. Welcome, Binish.
Thank you very much, Leo.
So I hope that you're seeing the correct, I saw that you can see my notes earlier. Hopefully it is the correct presentation now. Before we get started, I would just like to tell you a bit of the background for these webinars. This is the third one we are doing in our series with BTH. Previously, we have talked about continuous improvement and then technical depth. And if you feel like, damn it, I should have seen those ones, don't worry, because we have them recorded, so you can find them on the Time People Group website or on our YouTube. But today we're going to be talking about scaling agile. Binish is going to be sharing some of her research with us, which is going to be very exciting. And then next Thursday, 4 o'clock, like now, we're going to have a roundtable discussion. So all of the speakers are going to be joining us for a roundtable. And then it's going to be an excellent opportunity for you, the viewer, to ask your own questions and get in on the discussion. So please check it out and register at timepeoplegroup.com. You can also find links on our LinkedIn, for example, if you want to register. Before we get started, I would just like to, again, welcome you all here. It's great that we have the technology to be able to bring you this webinar. The downside, of course, is that me and Binish, we cannot see you. We can't really gauge your reactions. But we want this to be as interactive as possible. So I noticed that some of you have already found the chat. So please, during the course of the webinar, please ask all of your questions. And then we're going to do a Q&A with Binish at the end. But before we get to that, I would just like to very shortly tell you about Time People Group. Like I mentioned, we have been cooperating with BTH over the years, and that's why we're bringing you this webinar together. Time People Group is a collection of 9 companies that make up the group. Here you can see them. They have different specialties. We're all what we have in common is that we help our customers achieve their goals and effectivize their IT in several different ways. So you have companies like Crio, F3, and Olingo who work more on the management side of things, and then you have Giraffe, Waymark, Novatrox, who do more of the technical stuff. And then we also have 2 networks, one for architects and one for any IT specialist and consultants. So if you are one of those people, then you should definitely check those out. What I want to say with this picture is that we as a group feel very comfortable tackling any type of IT challenge that you might have. So that was just very shortly about Time People Group. I won't be stealing any more of your time. So I'm going to say again, welcome Binish, and please continue with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Leo. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this talk today. Today, I will be talking about how to scale effectively in consideration of architectural and organizational perspectives. So let's start. My name is Binish Tanveer, and I'm an associate senior lecturer at Blekinge Institute of Technology. I did my PhD in software engineering from Germany. I have an extensive experience of working in industry, both as a researcher and a practitioner. I've been involved consulting large organizations for their software process improvement initiatives. And today in this talk, I'll again be talking about how to effectively scale agile in large organizations, keeping in consideration of architectural as well as organizational side. So let's begin. As the context is pretty much clear now, I hope that we are talking about large organizations that are adopting agile methods to seek the promises that agile has been delivering in a small scale. Like, for example, shorter lead time, increased quality, and delivering value to customers. In leading organizations towards effective scaling, many large-scale methods have been proposed, as we know. However, despite of these methods and their practices, their principles, scaling agile is challenging. It is challenging because companies do not replace their old ways of working with the new ones, with the prescribed ones, with these methods, but rather they keep on adding unnecessary layers. The organization becomes overly complex with too many teams, maintaining too many different components at the same time, and also having different multiple roles. People do not have a bigger picture of the architecture anymore. For example, an organization is full of roles and new responsibilities, and probably losing control in many terms and many subunits, for example. Then scaling results in an exponential growth of dependencies because of these unnecessary layers, extra processes, with these a lot of other protocols, for example, that the company keeps on having from what old habits that they have, instead of adapting what has been told and with respect to these new methods. As you see in this picture, I have depicted a large organization where I have sorted or packed the technical structures like code, repositories, test documents, and all these artifacts under architecture. And on the organizational side, I have all those social structures, for example, teams, people, their affiliation, how they are working, the ways of working, and the organization side. Just to give you a view why I'm talking about architecture side and organization side and how they are connected. As in the picture, you are seeing a lot of dependencies, which are in the form of different activities, or perhaps many social structures, like teams are dependent on many of the artifacts to work with. They are also dependent among themselves, like horizontally there exist dependencies. They depend among themselves for coordination related activities, for example, because that also increase manyfold as the organization scales. And then the dependencies among the components also, or different software repositories, or how you want to call it, different artifacts also increases, because now we don't talk about just few components, few products, or few artifacts and a few teams, but we are talking about multitudes. So the scale, the gravity is too big. As you can see, I tried to depict it in this picture. So what is the problem then? We have seen there is a large organization, it has increased dependencies, and scaling is challenging. What is actually the problem behind all this? Well, we see that with these dependencies, they start introducing more waste than value. Yeah. And what type of lean waste, if I may say, I'm talking? So for example, we have defects, we have delays, we have handoffs, we have task switching, and many more extra processes like I talked about, waiting time, and so on and so forth. And not necessarily that these dependencies result or producing just one waste. Maybe they are leading to multiple wastes. Maybe one waste is related to many other, is leading to many other wastes, for example. And then why it is even important, why I'm even talking about these wastes. It is because the companies cannot really deliver value or be fast or enjoy any of the promises that actual agile has been delivering in a small scale. And in order to achieve those very goals for which they are trying to scale the practices, this waste is keeping from them, these dependencies are keeping them to deliver that. So then it's really imperative to analyze these dependencies that will reveal us more about value adding dependencies. So for example, there is a code review activity, so for example, or requirements engineering activity. Then we have non-value adding but essential activities, like, okay, for example, two teams are working together, and since they are a team is developing and the other is, for example, they are doing the code review, for example. So for that, they have to communicate with each other, or for any other matter, if they have a technical dependency in their components they are working with, then definitely they are bound with task dependency of extra collaboration, which perhaps is directly not seen as value added, but it is essential, because if they don't collaborate, they might have different problems understanding those components. Then what about the wasteful things? So there are defects. Maybe they are generating because people in a team are doing a lot of task switching. So they have a lot of to develop, then suddenly priority changes, a bug comes in, they have to fix that. Then they have to hand off the work to somewhere else, some other member, and then do task switching. With this task switching comes a lot of other troubles, eventually ending into defects. So this is really a series of waste initiated by one thing and another, and topped up by another. So analysis of these dependencies reveal us to distinguish which of these categories these dependencies belongs to. So dependencies, not necessarily, I mean one dependency, they may be like data related. So people are dependent on because of the data. They are coordination related dependencies. They could be information related. They could be technical dependencies among the components themselves. So like only in the architecture side, only in the organization, but also they're also packed up all around. So one way of delivering value is to identify and remove wasteful dependencies. So, okay, then we have identified wasteful dependencies. We will remove it. We will achieve the goal. Everyone is happy. Everything is okay. But unfortunately, it's not that straightforward in a large scale context. I'll tell you why. It is because there exists a strong association between the architectural side, the technical structures, and the social structures, the organizational side that binds them together. So you cannot, even after finding the wasteful dependencies in the technical structures, in the artifacts, you cannot change them without impacting the organizational side. Yeah. So technical dependencies impact task dependencies and vice versa. Yeah. You cannot change components here without disturbing their teams because they have to be informed what the changes are there because they are using those components to do certain other things. Just saying, for example. Then there are contextual factors. So a value to one organization might not be valued. It's a waste to another, for example. Compliance documentation. So for one organization, it could be value, it could be a requirement, say, but for other, it's a waste. They don't consider it. Yeah. Then different dependencies can have different types of wastes. Different types of impact is one thing, but having different types of waste, maybe one, maybe two, leading to others, and so on. So all these things are interconnected. And the thing is, you cannot change them in isolation without disturbing their counterparts. And unfortunately, there is no holistic approach that covers the entire process of waste removal and scale effectively. All the methods, these large-scale methods, they have been advantage in addressing different areas through their different practices. For example, inter-team communication, bringing a big picture of architecture, for example, solving some organizational issues like roles, responsibilities, and so on, but not on the whole. So what it takes to change one thing without disturbing the other, or how to change them together and not breaking anything, but getting rid of the waste itself. So, like I gave examples before, the technical dependencies among code components, they really require coordination activities, which at times is considered as waste or non-value adding. Maybe the teams are using shared pool of resources and they have to wait for one to release the resources before the race conditions comes. So maybe they are causing waiting time, which is a waste or delays. Then task switching, as I already explained, this is also a way which can lead to defects, which is another waste. So what am I proposing here? What is my research all about? Here comes what am I proposing in order to scale effectively. We are proposing refactoring architecture and organization together. So taking them in a bigger picture and then seeing, okay, what influences both together, which are those dependencies, and how we can identify the wasteful ones, and what we can do in order to improve continuously in a bottoms-up fashion, using lean and agile principles, because top-down, we know in agile setting, it doesn't work. So in a lightweight mode, what is the bottom-up approach? How we can remove all those dependencies that generate waste, keeping both architecture and organization together. Yeah, and this takes to our objective, which is to enable effective scaling practices in a large organization, to empower teams eventually to identify waste, to implement change, to be able to measure the effect of change and improve continuously. While doing so, they also gain the knowledge of their architecture and organization, how they are overlapping with each other, how they are interacting. Where are they causing waste? Where are they causing value? How we can maximize value and remove the waste. Yeah. So I have talked about this objective, our research, Now, how this refactoring approach actually works. Let us take a look at that. It's essentially a 6-step process with a cycle, as you see that. And the colors are showing the contribution of the parties. So BTH, like us, what we will be performing, and the company, for example, what you will be performing in order to conduct this whole cycle. So together, we will start with identification of wasteful dependencies, right? And after that, you will select and give us the priority. Which one are the most ones that needs attention immediately, that needs to be addressed? Together, we'll sit down and find, okay, what are the root cause analysis? What is causing this dependency becoming a waste, for example? Or can we categorize it? Can we do something to repair it? Or can we simply remove it? What else can be done in the form of a solution space towards that? And what type of waste? And is it also impacting the other parts? So we have found those dependencies, not only that they are impacting on certain level. For example, are there other abstraction levels? For example, if it is a team level, are other teams also, or maybe other higher ups are also getting impacted for that, for example? Then we suggest making changes, maybe removing the wasteful dependency, maybe repairing it. We present you the suggestions. You will try to implement that in your organization, and we will evaluate for you. Then we repeat this cycle, right? While implementing and evaluating, metrics play a very important part here. We need to set a baseline. Whatever we have identified, we need to set a baseline for that. And then we need to measure it again, remeasure to see, okay, we have improved or not by eliminating certain wasteful thing. And what could be those measures? This is also something we have to sit together and find, because for every organization, it is kind of really context dependent and case dependent on how they define waste, or which waste they want to measure. Maybe something are very objective measures like defects. Okay, number of defects is okay. But what about context switches? Or what about say cognitive load? People are getting burnt out because of that. So there we really have to think. Just to give an example of matrix, maybe you don't require it. It depends case to case. Now, so far, it is the research-wise how this method works in these steps, but actually how we operationalize this method. Now I'm going down one step deeper, and let's say we are on the first step. So before identifying the wasteful dependencies, we really need to know what the dependencies are between the architecture and organization. So together we'll sit and see, okay, can we use existing architecture? Is there any architecture blueprint which is existing? If there, fine, we can extract some information out of it. If not, then we'll dig down deep into these trenches. Like we will dig down the artifacts like code, issue tracker, version control. We try to map them, do some impact analysis, something, and then we create a dependency chart, for example. Yeah, on organizational side, we will do this, or at the at the architecture side, we'll do this. And organizational side, we'll also try to capture this information of team structure, how they are communicating with each other, how they are affiliated with each other. Maybe we need to do some interviews to do some observation sessions, how teams are cooperating with each other, how they are collaborating, and what are they using? Maybe they are using artifacts, what are they producing, what other organizational units they are dependent on. Then we create another map from there, or dependency chart. Then we combine them together, see, okay, this is it. These are the common dependencies which are occurring in both the sides. Let's see. Let's categorize them. Are they generating value? So if it's a code review process, is it really generating value? If it's manual, if it's automated, what value it is giving? If it's not giving value, what kind of waste it is generating? Is it causing delays? Does the feedback loop really needs teams to hold on and just wait before they actually get an okay to merge the code? Yeah, for example. Then once we have categorized them, we will ask your selection or prioritization, which one to address first. We do the root cause analysis, like I explained before, and we identify the impact. Where are they? Now we have the dependencies, we have the wasteful, which ones to do, which are they impacting, and what sort of things we can do for that. We suggest some improvements to you. And like I said, before implementing, we need to set a baseline. So we need to have certain metrics there in place. And then after implementation, we need to reevaluate maybe a sprint, maybe after 2 sprints, we need to set a milestone when we want to see those, right? And it can also happen that in one cycle, we are just seeing one part of that process. Yeah, maybe in other sprint, we want to see another part which is impacted. So imagine your whole dependency chart is in front of you. And at one point of time, few things get highlighted because we want to get effect, or we want to measure them, how refactoring is helping at that cycle, at that point of time. And then the next, maybe some other area is highlighted and we want to see that. Yeah. So step by step in everything, we want to see how it works and how it can improve in terms of identifying wasteful dependency. So not at once, but of course it's a step by process, smaller steps. Every time we try to see, and then we measure, and then we keep on changing. So this is the vision, or say how we operationalize it, what we require in terms of what the method requires. We probably would be needing access to meetings, to observation sessions as silent observers there, get access to data repositories where we can actually track and try to build these dependencies, map out of that, access to personnel where we can confirm, for example, a few things, ask their opinions in terms of dependencies, or ask in terms of metrics to define. And the method offers, of course, a list of wasteful dependencies. And once the method is developed, we want you to use it independent of us, and then improve constantly. Here is the very part that lies, okay, we really want to empower the teams, how they can, everyone is responsible for their own team, everyone can see and find the opportunity where they can improve, keeping this in view, that if I change something in architecture, I also need to see here and how they interplay with each other. Where is the waste? How can I identify? And how can I suggest improvements? There some benefits, short-term benefits, and of course, we are acting as extra resources for you. We'll operationalize the method as the very first upfront investment, as you say. We analyze the data offline. You save all the time, effort, and just have to come and ask maybe some confirmatory things to say, okay, this is it. And while analyzing, maybe we could offer something, okay, if this is an opportunity for you, that this is a bigger architecture here, how we see it, this is your organization, how we see it, and all the teams, are they really allocated in order to maximize the value that, or feature that they are producing? So it's a kind of an umbrella. That is it. I just think that's an extra feature. Maybe we can also address with that. Among long-term benefits, you as a whole organization, as a whole company, get awareness about your architecture and organization, how their structures, how are they associated, and how are they associated in terms of where is the waste. It also acts as a validation instrument for you, where you can identify and improve by making informed decisions. Okay, this is a non-value adding activity, but since it's a trade-off, we have to have this collaboration activity ongoing because we cannot. So in a sense, it's an informed decision making for you. So you know that what you, if you're investing here, it has some limitations, or if it's a complete waste, we can remove it, completely remove it. Empowering teams, and how we vision how we can empower teams, how you can use this method when it is developed independent of others, for example, us. Let's take an example. There is a step which is a manual code review step before integration or merging or something. And people are really waiting kind of for that state, which is for them is a waste, because, okay, what value is it giving? Do we really need this step? One team starts thinking, okay, since we have this step, why do we need it? What value is it giving to us? It's causing a lot of delays. I have to wait for this before I can merge this in, and so on and so forth. And then you suddenly start, okay, if I think it's a waste, if it's a lot of waiting time, how can I propose something that replaces it? Okay, if the person or whoever, or the team who's reviewing it, they are just looking at the static code analysis things, for example, maybe some automated tool can do that for us. It's okay. We can skip this part. We can be faster. Well, if there is a tool available, yes, no, okay, then I can maybe act as a volunteer, one or two other person. We can just quickly have something done, and instead of this one person waiting for them, having delays in the process, we just get things done. And then we have metrics for saving time, how much time it saves if we want to be efficient, if that's the waste to be identified. Then we implement it, and then we measure it. But we implement it and we measure it. Where do we start these activities? If a team thinks about such activities, such improvement potential is there, well, where shall I start doing that? Then retrospectives are a very powerful tool for process improvement activities. But unfortunately, due to lack of structure, time, and it's understandable, it's a time-consuming activity for other stuff, that it gets unproductive when we really want to have something improvement there. Yeah, without a proper method, obviously, it's also very important. So since we are proposing a proper systematic method with these steps, you will have all the necessary data, like all these templates, your charts, your maps in front of you. And then if an opportunity comes to see, okay, I have this, our team has these many dependencies. Why are they there? Are they really necessary? Are they really required? Maybe one or two persons then 5 minutes out of this, give this idea, pitch in this idea in the retrospective meetings. And then we all think about, okay, yes, we have it. We can do something about it. Okay. So it's basically empowering the team. They are taking responsibility. They are moving forward and saying, okay, we are doing this improvement in our team. And we also look forward to the other teams and so on. And this way, if you see, improvement is also kind of scaling, you know, small improvements, but they are also scaling organization-wide. So we are empowering, we are asking the teams to be able to do themselves without us. You'll have all the tools there, and then we sit together and we can also see, okay, let's define what we want. And then you as a team later on can start with it. Two ways to use in retrospective as well. So we can start our refactoring. We can find the wasteful dependencies and plan ways to refactor it, improve it, how we can do that. Or maybe already started refactoring, we can evaluate and we can present the results in there and we can see, okay, it works, it doesn't work, X, Y, Z, and so on. So team reflections will enable this effective application and retrospectives. And this is a very good starting point, if I may say. So now you see that we have a vision. This was my research, and this is how I have conducted it, or say, operationalized in that sense. If I may hint towards the last seminar you might have attended by my colleagues, Javier and Ehsan, they were giving a seminar on asset management and technical debt. So asset management, asset degradation, and technical debt. So we are doing this project, and we are at the stage where it's more focused in the sense that we are talking essentially about technical debt, which, by the way, is seen as a waste in itself. I'm being very careful in saying that, or some activity which especially when unpaid, starts other wastes like rework, like cognitive load, like task switching, like a lot of maybe defects too, because the repositories get too complex with that, with the technical debt. So there, at least we have identified maybe those hotspots where we want to address it, but not individual, not independent of the organizational side. That is the architecture side. Now we are trying to build it, to connect it towards the organization side. And it came to our knowledge that mainly those repositories, those artifacts had huge technical debt, which has actual problem with the responsibility. So the repositories which are not, which are contributed by someone else, but are owned by someone else. So they said this responsibility is not there. There is no accountability there. So maybe there is an improvement potential that instead of not only repaying it, that is one thing, okay, but why not also kind of restructure from organizational perspective, in a sense that we assign the same people responsibility, accountability, who are actually contributing to that. So they already know whatever they are doing it, instead of making it too complex, they are responsible for that and they proactively do something instead of repaying afterwards, and they already do something about it. So we are at that stage where we are trying to connect it towards organization. we know the results soon, but there is a fair chance that these things really go towards positive end because we are able to establish this link at the moment. So this is just to give you the highlights of where am I at this stage of the research, if you ask the current stage. And this is how we propose to do it independent of us. What it requires is access to repositories and some data as upfront investment without you offline analysis. And at the end, you will have all the tools and things to perform it on your own. So this is added benefit. I think I am pretty, finishing at this stage. And if any one of you will be interested in knowing further, maybe the results or having similar problems to discuss or to further contact on this area, I'll be very happy to assist my team. Everyone, here's my contact number. You can always you're most welcome to contact me always, and we are there to help you. With this, I end my session, and thank you very much for listening. Please, if you have any questions, any things to discuss, I'll be very happy to assist in that sense. Thank you very much. Over to Leo.
Thank you so much, Binish. Great presentation, very straight to the point, a good, crisp explanation of this method. We have a couple of questions already. So first of all, if you want to become involved, I mean, this sounds incredible. Like you're going to help a company out. How do you go about applying?
Applying, like I said, operationalization. I told. I mean, this is of course.
Yeah, just if you want to partner up with you, is it just do we contact you straight away or?
Yes, absolutely. They can contact me. Yeah, that will be great. So we could definitely be in touch with that.
Are there any criteria enabled to become a partner? You mentioned that larger organizations is interesting.
I think this method is also similar issues. I mean, not really large is the context because things get really overcomplicated because of, scaling issues and everything. But even in small or medium-sized organizations, when they have this tremendous load of dependencies getting nowhere, I mean, absolutely, it fits to that context too. Scaling is one objective, but it's not entirely in itself an end. So it's not like only for scaling, but obviously how to improve ways of working. I would say in a smaller medium size, it's also working. So it's okay. I mean, it's perfectly fitting.
Yeah. So if a company was able to get your help, how long would this project take? Like, how long do you reckon this method would take to implement?
Well, it's also depending on how the company is available. I mean, how they are committed to giving us time, obviously, because like I say, we will shorten the time as soon as we get access to the prescribed data. And it also depends on the level of data they already have. I mean, if they already have some blueprints of the architecture, even smaller one, we can rather do a lightweight workshop to get these dependencies out. And we rather go for focus groups instead of just really digging deep down into data and bringing out the structures, which would be beneficial because sometimes companies do not have, or as a team, because I myself was working as a practitioner in industry. So I knew not everything was crystal clear at that time. I mean, information was there, I wasn't able to find it, or information wasn't existing at all. So it was from the code that I able to get, oh, this dependency occurred, but it wasn't in the design. Like I say, the better if we go dig down deep. But even without it, I mean, if it's a blueprint, it's okay to have just these dependencies. And then as the time allowed, we can dig down deep and fine. I would say, I mean, initial 5-6 months should be enough, like depending on how flexible they are. I mean, if we go on a light pace, not to overburden, like a meeting twice a month or something, and just to say, so maybe this should be enough depending on how much they already have to offer. And then if we can already build a model, and then depending on how deep, like I said, they want to go, it's up to also depending on their time. So it's not only ours.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
How many companies have been a part of this research so far?
It's a search profile project. It's a sub-project in a search profile project. So it's a lot of companies are already there. But so far in one company, like I said, the current status is about one company that I'm currently working with. So that is active, but the rest are already part in the search profile project.
Yeah. Excellent. I would just like to take a step back and ask a broader question. Why was this subject interesting to you? Why did you end up researching this?
Yes, this subject was interesting because, like I say, we have so companies are adopting agile methods because obvious reasons. Yeah. Then we have scaling methods. We have other methods, customized methods on how to scale agile if it's a large organization, because in smaller companies, you see the outcome coming very good. But the very innovative part of why it became interesting was these two things that cannot be separate from each other, like architecture and organizations. So there wasn't any approach that was giving a holistic view on that. This is that it became very, very concrete in that sense that I cannot simply improve one practice or say one area without impacting the other. And why not? It has been as such. This is for me to say. This is good that I can step into and dig in why it wasn't. But yeah, independently, many of these methods are working on improving architecture side, like say. Introducing more roles, more responsibilities on architectural level, portfolio level, agile, these release train levels and everything, but not really considering this connection of how you can how can you remove this waste when it comes to this bond of task dependencies and technical dependencies. This is where it becomes very interesting to explore. Yeah.
So you were talking earlier about you have both the organizational, like with teams, and then you have the technical side. I imagine they're both equally important, but would you say that one was more prevalent than the other? Was it more like technical dependencies that were in the way, or was it more organizational, or were they equal?
I think they cannot really be independent of each other, because it's human who are deriving, it's human who are developing, it's human who are using it. Obviously, they do not themselves do something out of the box. Obviously, so whichever happens here has something at the back. Well, happen, fine. But how to improve on that, which is you really need to think in these terms. So they are both equally important, equally prevalent. Like I said, for technical depth, it definitely has something to go digger down deep, which you start off with there, but you can always connect from here, from the other side. But if you start from organizational perspective, like context switches, for example, then you really have to think and go towards from there and see, okay, what are actually the components which they are really struggling with? For example, I myself, when I was working, we used to get a lot of invalid defect reports. So for example, so defect reports is written, and we got from our team, our quality assurance department, okay, this is the bug, fix it. Okay, out of all the development activities, I leave everything, I start digging deep, debugging. Oh, there it is. Oh, but this is not even a bug, my God, because this was not even in the specification. So all my effort, my time, my context switch, my thing is kind of wasted because it was not in the specs. All I had to do was to prevent it for later, to inform the testing team, and not only to inform, but also the component they were using, put a slight check or something, a message or anything that this does not comply, so it won't go any further with that, right? So just to say, this is one activity which ended up in wasting so much time, which we only realize after like a lot of things. Similarly, is that like if I have to check in something, I am waiting for feedback, and then because I have so much work, I just forget which feedback it has to be, right? And then after a certain period, somebody comes in, okay, this is the feedback, you missed this and that. And I again have to switch and say, okay, where I was, what the thing was, what was the context where I was working. And then the feedback came a lot later. Well, they have their own, of course, problems. They will be stacked up with other things. But the thing is, they're also dependency. So from the organizational side, it also matters. These teams are so overworked, having maybe low resources, context problems, delays, they are waiting for other to respond, and then so sequential thing maybe. This is all comes from this side, but eventually goes to your artifacts. So that's why they're totally related. You cannot really say which gets the preference or other or not.
Yeah, they're so interconnected. Yeah.
Interconnected, yes.
Yeah.
So this is internal, but external then are other factors. It comes from customer value. Like so far I was talking about, the internal things, that how you can remove the waste and improve it. But what about the other contextual factors or the customer value? Like I said, internal documentation might be a waste for internal item, but it might be waste for customer perspective, that they don't really, not the product manuals, I'm talking about the internal, but from internal perspective, from a manager point of view, I really need them because for the future, how I do planning and so on and so forth. So far it's this, but other factors are from outside that also matter. Yeah.
Super interesting, Binish. One question, are you going to be sharing your presentation with the attendees?
Yes, sure. If
Excellent.
they can wait 1 hour or two, I will be just sending you maybe, and then you can upload it. Yes, sure.
Yeah, so we're going to get it to you, I think, tomorrow, so we don't have to stress out.
Sure.
And I think I've heard that some of you have issues not receiving the email, so I think it's because I'm sending out to so many people at the same time. So check your trash email and see if it shows up there. Otherwise, you can just get in touch with me. So if we don't have any last questions, I see if people are typing furiously here, give them a couple of seconds more. I would just like to say again, big thank you, Binish, for this excellent presentation. And I think it's a fantastic offering that you have. I mean, all this help for free. So I mean, it's I don't know how you could pass up on it. So please get in touch with Binish, and if you want to know more about the Time People Group, and if you are interested in our services, you can feel free to contact me at any time. I'm going to send you my contact information in the email. So Binish, do you have any last words for the attendees? Or
yeah, thank you very much for attending the session today. And if you have anything left about this session or any other session, Leo can also remind you about our panel discussion, which is next week due. So I would really urge to all of you who really want to have some questions or anything that you want to share, you have our contacts, but don't forget to come to the panel. So we will be there, all of us.
Excellent, Binish. Thank you for reminding me for saying that. So we're going to have a great panel discussion. We're going to have all the previous speakers. Binish is going to be there, of course. So an excellent opportunity to get a hold of them.
For us too. Yes, definitely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leo.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.